The shuttle landed gently on the surface of Caldera 3, a young colony world with quiet skies and wide, misty forests. Lieutenant Eric Mathers stepped out of the transport bay, wearing a dark uniform with the silver star of the Earth's colonial fleet on his shoulder. His boots made soft sounds against the gravel path as he walked toward the edge of the landing zone. He wasn't here for war. He wasn't here for orders. He was here for a house. The colony was peaceful. It had small homes, clean roads, and floating drones that trimmed trees and kept the air fresh. The sun above was large and orange, giving everything a warm glow. Eric didn't stop to admire it. He had a mission, personal and quiet. In his hand was an old photo, faded but still clear.
Ow.
A 2-story house with a curved roof, white wood panels, and a blue door with a brass handle. This photo was all that remained of his grandmother's home on Earth. That house had burned down during the resource wars, long before he joined the fleet. But 2 months ago, while reviewing colony maps, he had seen something strange. A building on Caldera 3 that looked exactly like it. Same shape, same location next to a curved road, same tree in the front yard. It couldn't be possible. And yet, here he was. He followed the directions on his tablet through a quiet street-marked sector. 9A. The air was soft, almost too perfect. The colony systems kept everything controlled. Temperature, moisture, even wind. But that wasn't what made Eric slow his steps. He was staring at the house. It was exactly the same. Same blue door, same brass handle. The tree in the yard leaned slightly to the right, just like in the picture. He walked slowly up the short path. His heart beat a little faster. Something was wrong or strange, or maybe both, but he needed to know. He knocked. The door opened after a few moments. A woman stood there. She looked to be in her early 30s, with calm gray eyes and dark hair tied back neatly. A simple gray tunic, the kind scholars or record keepers wore. She blinked at him, not surprised, not afraid, just curious. "Yes," she asked. Eric straightened. "I'm looking for this address. It's this house." She tilted her head slightly. "How can that be?" she said softly. "This is my house." Eric held out the old photo. "This was my grandmother's home on Earth. It was destroyed nearly 50 years ago. But this," he pointed to the house behind her. "This is the same. Down to the crack in the second window frame." The woman frowned and took a step forward. She looked at the photo carefully. "I don't know how that's possible," she said, returning it to him. "But I've lived here for the past 5 years. My name is Raina Vallis. I was assigned here by the Accord Historical Society. I'm a researcher of Earth's ancient cultures." Eric looked past her into the house. From the doorway, he could already see details: the wooden floor, the stairs with the metal railing, even the old ceramic lamp in the corner. All of it matched the house he remembered from his childhood. "Can I come in?" he asked. Raina hesitated, then nodded. "Right." She stepped aside, and Eric entered the house. The moment he crossed the doorway, something washed over him, a strange mix of comfort and confusion. It smelled like old wood and lemon polish. The floor creaked in the same places. He took slow steps, touching the walls with his fingertips. "This isn't a copy," he whispered. "This is it." Raina crossed her arms. "You said this house was destroyed. How can it be here?" "I don't know," Eric replied. "But I used to sit on that couch and play with my toy ships, I remember." The scratch on the dining table, my uncle dropped his knife during dinner once. They walked into the dining room together. Eric ran his hand across the long wooden table. Then he stopped. There it was. A small, almost invisible line, right where he remembered it. Raina watched him closely. "You said you're from Earth?" "Yes. I was born in the Sol system. Grew up in the North Terran zones. This house was my grandmother's before the city was bombed, during the wars." Raina looked troubled. "I came here after the colony was built. The house was already standing. I thought it was part of the original structures left by the first settlers. Has anyone else lived here before you?" "Not that I know of." Eric sat down slowly in the old chair, still stunned. His hand rested on the table, his fingers shaking slightly. "This isn't just a building," he said. "This house is a piece of Earth's past. My past. But what's it doing here?" Raina didn't have an answer. They sat in silence for a moment. The soft ticking of a wall clock the only sound in the room. Then Raina spoke. "There's something else," she said slowly. "Sometimes I dream of places I've never been. Green hills, blue skies, laughter. I always thought they were just dreams." She looked at Eric. "But now I wonder, were they memories?" Eric looked at her closely. Something was happening here, something deep and strange. A house once destroyed, now standing whole on a faraway planet. A woman who should have no connection to his past, yet walks the halls of his childhood. He stood up. "We need to find out the truth." Raina nodded. Outside, the mist began to rise again, curling around the trees. But inside the house, two people stood at the center of a mystery that would soon shake more than just memories. It would change everything. Eric sat on the old wooden chair in the living room, the same one his grandmother used to sit in. It creaked in the exact same way when he leaned back. The sunlight from the window hit the floor at the perfect angle, casting long golden lines. It felt like home, but it wasn't possible. Across from him, Raina watched him carefully. He was calm, but curious. Eric could tell that she was trying to understand what was happening just as much as he was. "You said this place was already built when you arrived?" Eric asked again. Raina nodded. "Yes. I arrived with the second research group. The house was here, empty but clean. It was like someone had just left." Eric looked around slowly. "And no one claimed it?" "No, the colony leaders thought it was just a leftover structure from the early settlers. But there are no official records." "I searched." That made Eric lean forward. "No construction records? No logs? Nothing?" "Nothing," Raina repeated. "And that's not normal. The Accord keeps very clear records, especially for colony buildings." Eric stood up and walked toward the hallway. He touched the wall near the edge of a door frame. "When I was little, I used to mark my height here every year," he said softly. Raina walked over. "Is it still there?" He crouched and rubbed the wall with his hand. Faint lines appeared, small cuts in the paint. Numbers, dates, even a name, E. Mathers. Raina stepped back, eyes wide. "That's your name," she said. Eric nodded slowly. "I haven't been in this house since I was 11. I remember crying the day we had to leave. My family ran when the city started to fall." Raina looked, lost in thought. "Then how did this house get here?" They returned to the living room and sat down again. "You said you dream of places you've never been," Eric said. "Tell me about them." Raina hesitated. "Grass, wind blowing, birds flying in the sky, the sound of children laughing. I always thought it was from old Earth documentaries I studied, but now I'm not sure." "Have you ever visited Earth?" Eric asked. "No. I've only studied it through data and recordings. That's why this house felt special to me. It felt human." Eric took a deep breath. "What if it's more than that? What if you somehow remember things that you shouldn't?" Raina looked confused. "But how?" "I don't know," Eric said. "But this isn't just a building. This house feels copied, not built. Like it was taken from Earth and placed here." Raina frowned. "You think it's a replica?" "Yes, but a perfect one. Down to the scratches, the dust patterns, even the small chip in the corner of the kitchen tile." Raina stood. "Show me." They walked into the kitchen. Eric pointed to the floor. Near the sink, a small piece of tile was chipped off. "It was something his grandmother used to cover with a rug. I cut my foot on that when I was a kid," Eric said. "It's exactly the same." Raina slowly knelt and touched the chipped tile. "This makes no sense," she whispered. "Even if someone copied it, how could they know such tiny details?" "That's the question," Eric said. They returned to the living room again, both of them quiet. The air felt heavier now, not dangerous, just full of unknowns. Eric looked out. The window. When was the house first detected by the colony? Raina went to her terminal and tapped on the screen. She brought up the colony maps from 5 years ago. There she pointed. The house appears in the map data during the first week of settlement. But before that, nothing. No construction. No delivery. It just appears. Eric leaned closer so it appeared. On its own? It seems that way. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Eric turned to her. I need to know if the house is only connected to me, or if it's connected to you too. Raina looked unsure. What do you mean? I want to check something, Eric said. Follow me. They went out to the front yard. The large tree stood tall, just like he remembered. Its bark was thick and rough, and its branches curved over the front porch. When I was 9, I carved my name into this tree, Eric said. He walked around the side and searched the bark with his fingers. There, he said. He pointed. Letters E-R-I-K were carved in small, uneven cuts, now half covered by time and tree growth. Raina touched it gently. You really did live here? Eric nodded. This proves it. But now I have more questions. They returned inside as the sun began to lower. The colony lights would soon turn on, giving the street a soft blue glow. Eric stood in the center of the living room, thinking. Something brought this house here, he said. Something that remembers. Remembers, Raina echoed. Yes. What if it's not just a machine or technology? What if something copied this house from memory? But whose memory? She asked. Maybe mine. Maybe someone else's. Or maybe he looked at her carefully. Yours. Raina looked away. That's not possible, is it? Eric asked. You said you dream of things you've never seen. What if those dreams aren't just dreams? It looked uncertain. There's something deeper here, Raina. Something watching us, or protecting a piece of Earth. Raina took a slow breath. Then we need help. From someone who understands these things? Agreed, Eric said. Call the Accord Records Division. They'll know where to begin. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. Inside, a mystery deeper than memory was growing stronger, and the house, silent and still, held its secrets close. The next morning, the sky over Calderathri was clear and bright. The soft mist that usually covered the colony had lifted, revealing the peaceful streets and glowing trees. But inside the strange house, Eric and Raina were far from peace. Eric stood by the window, arms crossed, deep in thought. Raina sat at the desk, her eyes moving quickly over the data screen. I sent a full report to the Accord Records Division, she said. They responded just now. Eric turned around. What did they say? They're surprised. There are no official records of this house ever being built on Caldera 3. No materials delivered, no construction logs. Nothing. So we were right, Eric said. The house just appeared. Raina nodded slowly. They're sending. A specialist? He'll arrive tomorrow. Good. We need help, Eric said. This is bigger than just a house. Raina looked around the room. It was quiet. Too quiet. The furniture, the lights, even the clock on the wall, it all worked. Perfectly. But the deeper they looked, the more they saw signs that this place was more than it seemed. She stood up and walked to the shelf by the window. She picked up an old glass vase. I've always wondered about this, she said. Looked like anything from the colony, and now I know why. Eric took it from her hands carefully, turned it over and looked at the bottom. Etched into the glass were small letters, Earthware. Made in 2097. Eric looked at Raina. This was made on Earth. My grandmother had a set just like this. It's not just a copy, Raina said quietly. It's the same. They spent the rest of the day checking every part of the house. Every drawer, every shelf, every floorboard. And with each new item they touched, the truth became clearer. It wasn't a reconstruction. It wasn't a replica. Somehow this was the original house, moved from Earth to Caldera 3, down to the smallest details. But how? By evening, they sat together in the kitchen. The smell of warm tea filled the room. Eric had prepared it using an old kettle he found in the back cupboard. It was the same brand his grandmother used. Raina sipped the tea quietly. There's something I didn't tell you before. Eric looked up. What is it? She hesitated, then spoke. A few months after I moved in, I found something strange in the basement, behind a wall. I didn't tell anyone. I thought it was just leftover tech. What kind of tech? Eric asked. I'm not sure, it didn't match any colony designs, but it glowed. Eric stood up immediately. Show me. They went down to the basement. The air was cooler here. The walls were old and slightly cracked, just like the basement from Eric's memories. Raina led him to the far side where the wall looked slightly different. She tapped a corner. The panel slid open. Behind it, hidden in the stone wall, was a crystalline node, pulsed with a soft blue light. Strange symbols covered its surface, symbols that moved and shifted like liquid. Eric stared at it. This isn't human tech. I know, Raina said. I checked every Accord database. These markings match only one known source. Touched a small screen on her wrist. A hologram appeared, showing ancient alien script next to a translation. Zelyari. Eric's eyes widened. The Zelyari, they've been extinct for over 1,000 years. Zelyari were one of the oldest spacefaring species in the galaxy. They were known for their strange technology devices that could read memory, shape space, and create living structures. Most of their knowledge was lost when their race vanished. I thought their tech was all gone, Eric said. Some pieces were found, Raina replied. Most were broken or dead, but this one works. Eric stepped closer to the glowing note. Do you think this copied the house? Not copied, Raina said. I think it remembered it. What do you mean? I think this node, whatever it is, used someone's memory to bring the house here. Not from blueprints or designs, but from feelings, thoughts, and deep memory. Whose memory? Eric asked, though the answer was forming in his mind. Maybe. Yours, maybe mine, Raina said softly. Or maybe both. Eric stared at the glowing crystal. He remembered stories of the Zelyari using memory to store data, or even create artificial spaces. But to rebuild an entire house perfectly on another planet? That was something new. The next morning, the Accord specialist arrived. His name was Dr. Nellis Varn, a tall, quiet man with silver hair and eyes that seemed to notice everything. He wore the black and white coat of the Accord Historical Sciences. Division. Eric and Raina showed him the house, the records, the tree with the carved name, the Zelyari crystal. Dr. Varn examined it all without speaking much. Finally, he stood in the basement, facing the glowing node. This is real, he said, and it's active. Can you explain how it works? Raina asked. Not fully, Varn replied. I can tell you this. Zelyari technology reacts to strong emotional memory. It doesn't just read thoughts, it shapes reality from what a person feels is true. It recreates places, even people, from emotional imprints. Eric felt a chill. So this house could have been brought here from Earth by memory alone. Yes, Varn said. If someone remembered it deeply enough, lived in it, loved it, lost it. He looked between Eric and Raina. One of you, or both, must have a powerful connection to this place. Raina's voice was quiet. Then, is the house real? Varn smiled gently, as real as anything built by hands. Maybe more. The Zelyari believed memory was the strongest form of creation. Eric looked around. The kitchen, the walls, the light. Wow, it was real. And it had followed him more, called too. Raina for a reason. That night, Eric stood outside under the stars. The house glowed softly behind him. He could still hear Raina inside. He was talking with Dr. Varn. This wasn't the end of a mystery. It was the beginning of something greater. If memory could shape matter, if emotions could rebuild the past, then humanity had just discovered something powerful. Eric was standing inside its proof. The next morning was quiet. The sky above the colony was a soft gray, and the air felt cooler than usual. Eric stood in the doorway of the house, staring at the tall trees swaying in the breeze. His thoughts were full. Inside, Raina and Dr. Varn were examining the glowing Zelyar node again. The crystal still pulsed softly, like it was breathing. This node is not just remembering, Dr. Varn said. It's listening. Listening. Raina asked, frowning. To what? To you. To him? Dr. Varn pointed toward the doorway where Eric stood. To the emotions that live inside this space. Eric walked in slowly. What do you mean, listening? Dr. Varn turned to face him. Azeliari believed that memory is not stored only in the mind. They believed every place, every object, holds a trace of feeling. Their technology was built to connect with those feelings. So this node doesn't just recreate things from memory, Eric said. It pulls from the feelings in a space. Exactly, Varn replied. That's why this house is more than a copy. It's a living memory. Eric looked around the room again. Every chair, every picture, every small scratch in the floor, it all matched his childhood home. But it also now held Raina's presence, her books, her clothes, her touch. Then it's listening to both of us, Raina said. That might explain why I dreamed of places I never saw. The house is sharing Eric's memories, Varn nodded. And maybe he's feeling pieces of yours too. The three stood silently for a moment. The idea was strange, but somehow it made sense. The house was alive, not like a person, but like a reflection of two souls. Later that afternoon, Dr. Vaughn brought out a small black case. Inside, it was a device shaped like a circle with glowing lines along its edge. What's that? Eric asked. This is an echo reader, Varn explained. It's designed to trace emotional patterns in physical objects. It can read energy left behind by strong memories, especially in ancient tech like this. He walked to the Zelyari node and placed the echo reader on the wall next to it. The lines lit up in a deep blue color. Raina leaned forward. What's it doing?
Mapping emotional signatures, Varn said.
Each person leaves behind a unique pattern, like a fingerprint made of memory. After a few minutes, the device beeped. Varn looked at the results and raised his eyebrows. Interesting. What is it? Eric asked quickly. There are 2 strong signatures, Varn said. Yours, Eric, and yours, Raina. They both nodded. That was expected, but Varn hesitated. There's a third one. Eric and Raina looked at each other. A third person? Raina asked. Yes. Faint, but older. It's deeper in the walls, like it's been here a long time. Eric felt something shift in his chest. Could it be my grandmother? Possibly, Varn said. This tech is sensitive to love, grief, and longing. If she loved this place, her feelings might still remain. Raina looked around the room. Then this house really is full of memory. Not just ours, but hers too. Varn tapped the device again. I'll try to locate the center of this third pattern. He moved through the house slowly, watching the echo reader. It beeped more as he stepped into the upstairs hallway. Signal is strongest here, he said. Eric followed him to the second bedroom, the one that used to be his grandmother's. It looked the same as he remembered. The old bed with the blue blanket, wooden dresser with a small mirror. A quiet, warm feeling filled the space. Varn moved to the dresser and ran the device over the top drawer. Beep, beep, beep. It lit up. Open it, he said. Eric slowly pulled open the drawer. Inside, wrapped in an old cloth, was a small metal box. He picked it up gently. She used to keep family letters in this. He opened the box. Inside were 3 folded pieces of paper and a tiny photograph of a child him. Raina looked over his shoulder. That's you, Eric nodded. His hands trembled as he unfolded. One of the letters was written in soft handwriting. My dear Eric, I hope one day you return to this house. I left everything the way it was because I believed in something more than time. I believed in memory. I believed that things made with love never truly fade. If you find this, then my hope was not in vain. Eric's eyes watered. She knew somehow. She knew I'd come back. Raina touched his arm gently. She loved this house so much that even the walls remember her. Dr. Varn stepped back. This confirms everything. The node didn't just rebuild this place, responded to the deep feelings left behind by all 3 of you. That's why it's so real. That night, Eric sat on the front porch. The sky was full of stars and a gentle wind moved through the trees. The house behind him was quiet, but it felt alive. Raina joined him with 2 cups of tea. So, she said, What now? We can't leave it like this, Eric replied. This house could be a key to understanding Zelyari tech, or even human memory itself. Reyna nodded. But it's also a home. Yes, Eric smiled, and maybe it was meant to find both of us. She sipped her tea and looked out at the stars. It's strange. I've never felt like I belonged anywhere, but this house. It feels right. Eric looked at her. It's not strange. It feels like home to me too. For a moment, the world was silent except for the wind. Inside, the house held more than wooden walls. It held memory. Love. Echoes of lives once lived on, ones just beginning. And the Zelyari node, glowing softly in the basement, pulsed with quiet energy. It had remembered, listened, and created. Now, it waited. Waited for what would come next. The sun had just begun to rise over Caldera 3. A soft orange light came through the windows of the old house. It looked peaceful from the outside, but inside, something was changing. Eric woke up to a low humming sound. It wasn't loud, but it was steady, like a deep whisper coming from the walls. He sat up in bed and looked around. The room felt the same, and yet different. He got out of bed and followed the sound. It led him to the hallway. Reyna was already there, standing with her hand on the wall near the old bookshelf. You hear it too? She asked. Eric nodded. Yeah, it started just now. Dr. Varn joined them a few moments later. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept all night. I've been tracking the energy from the node. Something new is happening. What kind? Of new? Reyna asked. He pulled out his echo reader and scanned the wall. The lights on the device flashed in strange patterns. There's a shift, he said. The emotional signals are changing. Like ... Something is waking up. Suddenly, a soft click echoed through the hallway. The wall behind the bookshelf shimmered. Then, to their shock, it began to move. A seam appeared. A thin line cut across the wall where no door had ever been. The wall opened out, Eric. Reyna and Varn stared in silence. Behind the hidden door was a short hallway, dark and narrow. At the end, they could see a glowing arch made of the same crystal as the Zelyari node. Blue light flowed gently across its surface like water. This wasn't here before, Eric whispered. It wasn't meant to be, Varn said. Until now. What do we do? Reyna asked. Varn turned to them. We go in, but we go carefully. The hallway was cool and quiet. The walls were smooth and dark, almost like polished stone. The glowing arch ahead pulsed softly as they approached. As they passed through the archway, a strange feeling came over them. It wasn't fear, but something close to wonder, like they were stepping into someone's memory. On the other side, they found a small round room. In the center was a floating crystal sphere, about the size of a basketball. It spun slowly, glowing, with the same soft blue light as the Zelyar node. Around it, 4 stone panels stood like walls, each one covered in moving symbols. This is a memory chamber, Varn said quietly. The Zelyari built these to store emotional histories, not just facts, but feelings, moments. Eric stepped closer. The sphere began to glow brighter. It's reacting to you, Reyna said. I think. It knows me, Eric whispered. Suddenly, the sphere flashed. A soft image appeared in the air above it. A kitchen, the same kitchen from the house. And in it stood an older, womankind eyes. Silver hair. She smiled as she poured tea into 2 cups, my grandmother, Eric said, breath catching in his throat. The image moved like a living memory. Eric, as a small boy, came running in. He hugged her tightly. She laughed and bent down to kiss his forehead. Reyna stood quietly, watching. The memory faded slowly, and the room returned to its dim light. Eric wiped a tear from his eye. It's really her. This chamber is showing us pieces of your past, Varn said, but it's more than just playback. Zelyari believed in the power of memory. They built these to connect the past to the present, to keep something precious alive. Reyna stepped forward. What happens if we stay? Too long, nothing harmful, Varn said. But the longer you stay, the deeper the memories may go. As if answering his words, the sphere pulsed again. This time, the image that appeared was not from Eric's past. It was Reyna. She was sitting on the floor of the empty house. A few bags were beside her. The lights were beside her. The lights were off. Walls were bare. That was. "The day I moved in," she said softly, "I didn't think anyone cared. I felt alone." The memory faded just as gently as it came. Eric looked at her, his voice quiet. "You weren't alone." She smiled slightly. "Maybe not anymore." Suddenly, the sphere shifted again, but this time, the image it showed was not from the past, it was a future. The house was still there, but changed. Brighter, full of people laughing, talking. Children ran through the halls. Eric and Reyna stood side by side at the front porch. "This isn't a memory," Varn said slowly. "It's a possibility." "The house is showing us what could be," Eric whispered. A soft chime echoed in the chamber. Then the sphere dimmed and floated, gently back into place. The room was quiet again. "Why is it showing us these things?" Reyna asked. "I believe this house was not just made by the Zelyari node," Varn said. "It was guided by it. But the shape, the purpose, it came from you two, from your memories, your emotions." "So, the house is trying to tell us something," Eric said. "Yes," Varn nodded. "That this place is more than just a structure. It's a bridge. Between memory and meaning. Between past and future." They left the secret room. The wall behind them closed on its own. The seam vanished. It looked once again like a simple hallway. Back in the main house, everything felt different now. Chairs, the lights, even the air. "You feel it too?" Reyna asked. Eric nodded. "Yeah, like the house is breathing with us." Varn stepped out onto the porch and looked up at the stars. "You've found something rare," he said. "Something beautiful. You should protect it." "We will," Eric said. Reyna looked at the house, her heart full. Maybe this place isn't just made of memory. Maybe it's made of hope too. And somewhere deep below, the Zelyari node glowed gently, still listening, still remembering. It was waiting for what would come next. Days passed quietly after Eric, Reyna, and Dr. Varn discovered the memory chamber. The strange energy from the house had softened, as if it had settled after telling its story. Reyna had started writing a daily journal. She said the house inspired her to keep her thoughts. Eric spent his mornings walking through the nearby forest trails, often thinking about the images shown in the sphere, the past, the future, the possibility of something more. Dr. Varn stayed, busy taking readings and writing long reports, but even he seemed calmer now. The house no longer felt like a mystery. It felt like a part of them, but peace never lasts forever. One afternoon, a ship appeared in the sky above Caldera 3. It was silver and small, clearly not a cargo ship or a miner's shuttle. Eric stepped outside as it landed near the edge of the forest, about a kilometer from the house. The soft whirring of the engine slowly faded as the ship powered down. Reyna came to the porch beside him. "Are we expecting someone?" she asked. "No," Eric replied. "Are you?" Reyna shook her head. Dr. Varn stepped out with his tablet in hand. "That ship wasn't scheduled. I checked the colony logs just this morning. No new arrivals." They waited in silence as the door of the ship opened. A single person stepped out. She was tall, dressed in light gray, with short silver hair and calm eyes. Her walk was graceful, measured, not rushed. In her hand, she carried a small device that glowed faintly blue. "Is that ... Zelyara tech?" Varn whispered. The woman stopped a few meters away from them and gave a polite nod. "Greetings," she said in a gentle voice. "I hope I did not startle you." Eric stepped forward. "Who are you?" "My name is Sira. I'm a listener." She replied. "A listener?" Reyna asked. "Yes, I come when certain signals are heard. This house," Sarah gestured, "has been speaking." Varn looked both curious and cautious. "Speaking to what?" "To us," Sarah said. "To others, who still carry pieces of the Zelyari knowledge. I'm part of a group that watches for echoes like this. Eric frowned slightly. How did you know where to find it? The node beneath your house sent out a whisper and emotional frequency too strong to ignore. It was joy, grief, and hope. ... All at once, that kind of signal means something powerful is happening. She looked at Eric and Raina. You're not just living here. You're connected to it. Raina stepped forward, her voice calm. What do you want from us? Sierra smiled gently. Nothing. Came to listen. To understand. And, if you'll allow me to show you something. Eric glanced at Varn, who gave a cautious nod. All right, Eric said. Come inside, Sierra. Walked through the house slowly. She didn't ask many questions. She simply observed, sometimes closing her eyes, as if feeling the energy in the walls. She stopped near the place where the hidden door had opened. You found the chamber, she said. Yes, Eric replied. It showed us things, memories, feelings, even possible futures. Sierra turned to face him. That is what it was made for. To guide you. The Zelyari believed that homes were more than wood and stone. They were places where hearts left. Marx Varn leaned forward. You speak as if you knew them, Sierra nodded, not directly. But the knowledge they left behind still lives in people like me, passed down in fragments. Pieces of memory I've studied for years to understand what they left behind. She walked to the table and set down her device. A small, round projection appeared above it like the memory sphere in the chamber. It showed a map hundreds of glowing dots across a black star field. These are other places like this, she said. Other memory sites hidden across the galaxy. Most are quiet, forgotten. But once in a while one wakes up, she pointed to one glowing. This is your house. It's the only one that's activated in decades. Eric stared at it. Why now? Because of you, Sierra said. Because someone came here with feelings strong enough to awaken it. She looked at Raina. You thought you were lost. But the house heard your sorrow and wrapped you in memory. Then, to Eric, you thought you were just returning to a place, but you brought with you deep love on, a question that needed answering. Eric's voice was low. What question? Sierra's eyes softened. How? Can a house be more than a house? Room was silent for a moment. Then she continued. I have a message. It's not from me, but from the memory system itself. She tapped her device. A soft voice filled the room. It was not robotic. It was warm, familiar. To those who walk these halls, we remember with you. We were not gods. We were not forever, but we believed memory could be. The voice faded. Eric felt something stir inside him. Raina had tears in her eyes. Dr. Varn whispered, It's not just a machine. It's a message in a bottle, sent across time. Sierra stayed only one more night. In the morning, she prepared to leave. On the porch, she turned to Eric and Raina. This place is now part of something greater, but it's still your home. It belongs to you. Will others come? Raina asked. Some might, Sierra replied, but not to take. Only to learn. Only with your permission. She gave a small bow. Thank you for listening and for remembering. Then she turned and walked back to her ship. As it lifted into the sky and disappeared into the clouds, the house stood quietly and changed on the outside, but glowing with something new inside. A sense of purpose, a sense of legacy, and a whisper of something still to come. Weeks had passed since the visitor Sierra left Caldera-3. The strange hum of the house had softened into a peaceful silence, as if the building was finally at rest. No new doors had opened, no more lights flickered without reason. But Eric, Raina, and Dr. Varn knew something had changed forever. The house was no longer just a shelter. It was a living memory, and they were now part of it. Raina stood in the living room, holding a cup of warm tea. Morning sunlight touched the wooden floor. The walls still had that soft glow near the corners, faint and calming. It always felt like someone or something was listening. She had added new furniture over the weeks, not expensive, just warm and welcoming. There were books, blankets, and even a few pictures, real paper ones. One showed her and Eric smiling beside the porch steps. Another showed Dr. Varn holding a strange alien plant he found near the forest. Eric walked in and smiled at her. "You always stand there in the mornings?" She nodded. "The light feels nice. The house feels ... full." "It is," he said gently. "Full of everything we brought with us." Raina turned to him. "Do you ever wonder if it will call out again? You mean like before?" She nodded. He paused for a moment, thinking. Maybe, but maybe it doesn't need to anymore. Dr. Varen entered carrying a small box. "I think you'll want to see this." They both turned toward him. "I've been reviewing the memory data left by the sphere," he explained. "It recorded something new last night." He set the box down and tapped the top. A small light appeared, and the familiar glowing symbols spun in the air above them. Eric frowned. "What is it?" "It's a memory," Varn said. "From the past? Not from the future. This one is. It's being created now." The sphere showed a soft image. It was them standing in this room, together at this very moment. Raina stepped closer. "It's recording this?" Varn nodded. "I think the house is chosen. You're no longer just people living inside it. You're part of its story." The projection shimmered again. This time it showed the house many years later. Furniture was different. The lights were brighter. Children's laughter echoed in the background. A boy ran through the hall, holding a small glowing crystal. A girl followed him, laughing. "You can't catch me?" They vanished down the corridor as a woman, older, smiling, stepped out from the kitchen. Raina leaned in, heart full.
"Ask me." ...
"And that's our child," Eric whispered. The image slowly faded. "It's not just showing us what might happen," Varn said. "It's reminding us that every small moment we live now will shape the story of this place, the house it." Seem was always writing something. Later that day, Raina walked alone down the path to the small garden near the edge of the forest. The garden hadn't been there before they had planted it together after the visit from Saradat. It wasn't much, just a few flowering shrubs and a couple of trees, but it had grown fast. The soil near the house seemed to encourage life. As she stood by the largest tree, she placed her hand on the trunk. The bark felt warm beneath her fingers. A soft breeze passed through the leaves. She thought she heard a whisper, not in words, but in feeling. Peace, belonging, gratitude. She smiled. "We're here, and we're staying." Behind her, Eric approached slowly. "Varn's leaving tomorrow," he said. "I know," Raina said softly. "He said the house doesn't need studying anymore. He said it needs living." They stood in silence for a moment. "Do you think we're ready?" Eric asked. "For what?" "For making this place more than just ours." She turned to him. "You mean opening it up?" He nodded. "To others. People who are lost, like we were." Raina thought about it. It's about how the house had accepted her when she had nothing. About how Eric had come here, searching for something forgotten. About how together they had found more than they expected. "Yes," she said at last. "Let's make this a home, for anyone who needs one." Months passed, then a year.
"Yeah."
The house never stopped glowing at the edges. People came, not many, but enough. Some were travelers. Others were researchers, artists, or dreamers. A few came, with quiet sadness in their eyes. Eric and Raina welcomed them all. No one ever saw the door behind the bookshelf open again. But somehow everyone who stayed left with something healed inside them. The house remembered each person, their laughter, their stories, their small joys. Sometimes, late at night, the memory sphere would glow and show an image from that day. A shared meal, a child's drawing, simple walk under the stars. It never forgot. One evening, as stars filled the sky above Caldera 3, Eric stood on the porch alone. He looked out at the peaceful land, at the house he once thought was just a place from his childhood. Now it was something so much greater. Raina joined him, holding a cup of tea. He smiled at her. "Do you think the house is happy?" She looked at the warm lights inside, at the quiet hum in the floor, at the new swing someone had hung from the tree. "Yes," she said. It's finally full. They stood in silence, listening, not for danger, not for mystery, just for life. The house behind them glowed softly, like a heart beating gently in the dark. A home, remembering everything, waiting for what came next. The end.